going on, Fourth and Inches podcast listeners? You got Dan, Kevin, Stevie P coming at you. What's going on, fellas?
What's going on, listeners? What's going on, boys?
What's going on, guys?
All right, so today we're going to go over the news, and then we are going to do a mock draft where we're each going to have a spot in the draft. So we'll get into those things. But first, don't forget to check out the website at www.fourthandinchesff.com. That's www.4thandinchesff.com for a bunch of content. You got articles, blogs, player profiles, and you can subscribe to our draft guide, which features a decision maker, which is a tiered out guideline for 3 different drafting styles. You got one for your risky drafter, your conservative drafter, and you got the tweener, which is basically a mix of both. The draft guide also features the cheat codes, which is a visual breakdown of every team's stats from last year. It's a great tool to prepare for your drafts, and it's the same tool we use to give you information on our podcast. So check that out, and also look for us on the Fantasy Life app. We'll be doing start-sit questions throughout the year, and we're looking into doing a keeper question segment before the season starts. And if you're listening, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating. Leave some feedback, and let us know, how you guys feel about us. Negative, positive. Give us any kind of feedback. We're looking for anything we can do to improve your listening entertainment. So first, we will start off with the news over the last couple days.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
I'm just going to go in order from the Fantasy Life Newswire. ESPN's Dan Graziano reports Steelers wide receiver Dante Moncrief sounds like the front runner for the starting role opposite of Juju Smith-Schuster. Next, Le'Veon Bell will not play in the Jets preseason opener. Damian Williams returned to practice on Wednesday. Cowboys defensive end Robert Quinn suffered a broken hand in Tuesday's practice. The Seahawks want to get Rashad Penny more involved in the passing game. The Seahawks official website believes both Rashad Penny and Chris Carson are poised for big things. The Washington Post reports third-round Redskins wide receiver Terry McLaurin has been showered with praise from coaches and teammates in training camp. Ex-Redskins tight end Niles Paul has announced his retirement from the NFL after 8 seasons. The Athletic reports Bills' third-round running back Devin Singletary has earned a steady amount of opportunities with the first-team offense. A source with knowledge of the situation tells ESPN's Chris Sims that Antonio Brown has been dealing with frostbitten feet from entering a cryotherapy machine without the proper footwear. Raiders tight end Darren Waller is day-to-day with a sprained AC joint in his shoulder. DetroitLions.com reports first-round tight end T.J. Hawkinson has been a fixture with the first-team offense. Jameis Winston said he is focused on checking down more this season. Also, Bruce Arians said that, he doesn't need to be Superman on every play, I think was the quote. The Miami Herald's Barry Jackson reports that Mike Gesicki has had an uneven camp. LaShawn McCoy has been told he's still the guy in the Bills' backfield. 49ers activated Jerick McKinnon from the PUP list. Cam Newton will not play in their opening preseason game. Bobby Wagner is out indefinitely with platelet-rich plasma injections. Dolphins coach Brian Flores said Ryan Fitzpatrick will start the preseason opener. NFL Network's Jane Slater reports the Cowboys are willing to let Amari Cooper play out the final year of his deal. Same reporter, Jane Slater, reports the Cowboys have made a generous offer to Dak Prescott. We said the other day Michael Crabtree signed with the Cardinals. That apparently did not hold true, as they could not come true to agree on terms on a contract, according to Adam Schefter. Josina Anderson reports Ezekiel Elliott will not play in 2019 without a new contract. And that is it for the news over the last couple days. So anything from I feel like that was a good deal of news for a couple days. Anything that you guys feel relevant towards fantasy?
Yeah, Penny Carson, I think was a kind of a it's kind of a big deal. They said the same thing about both of them. I was reading today that Carson, they want to get him a little bit more involved in the passing game, and we already were talking about Penny being involved in the passing game. So I don't think that's really news, but in the same breath, I think it is a little bit. It makes you a little bit more confident in taking that backfield. I mean, if you needed the extra little push to say, I want those Seahawks guys, I think them being involved, both of them being a little bit more involved in the pass game. Penny more than Carson, way more than Carson, but I think Carson is going to be the battering ram and catch a couple of balls, and I think Penny is going to be the change of pace, big play guy. So like I said, I want both of those guys in this offense. To me, they're both guys that are very viable in fantasy football this year.
Yeah, the Zeke situation just seems like it's getting worse before it gets better. So I don't know when most people I would assume is drafting at the end of late third week, fourth week of August. So we'll probably have information on whether or not he will at all play at all this year, or if anything, fourth week, eighth week. But as of right now, it's a slippery slope with him.
Yeah, Terry McLaurin was another one that you mentioned, Kev, and I told you guys.
Yeah, you sure did. I remember we talked about, I think, was it our Dynasty podcast? I think we talked about Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
And you literally said, like, yeah, he has that rapport with Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State. And, I remember you saying it because I went on our Dynasty League and picked him up as you were saying it. So
yeah. I mean, he's just go ahead, Dan. What were you saying?
No, finish your point.
No, yeah. I just watching Terry McLaurin's tape, he just seemed to have a really good rapport with Dwayne Haskins, and Dwayne Haskins was super excited to get him. So for me, everybody keeps saying how there's no wide receivers in this team. There's no wide receivers on this team. There's no wide receivers to this team. We've had a couple of years of guys that we didn't think were going to do anything. The perfect example, and I always bring this up when I talk about guys that nobody thought was really going to do anything. Do you guys remember the Dwayne Bowe, what was it, his Ashley Lilly year? Where both of them had like ridiculous seasons. Dwayne Bowe had like 14 touchdowns.
he had one year where he was a monster.
Yeah, he was just an animal. And then Broncos, I want to say, I can't remember. Yeah, he did get paid.
And then he sucked.
Yeah, he didn't do nothing. And then I can't remember who it was on the Broncos had a really big year. Oh, you know who it was? Oh my God, Sticky Hands. Brandon Lloyd. It was Brandon Lloyd.
Yeah, Brandon Lloyd had a
huge season. Both of them, nobody. These were guys that people were taking in later rounds, 6, 7. You know what I mean? Nobody thought any of these guys were going to do anything. And guess what? They were both on bad teams, and because the Chiefs were not good that year. You know what I mean? They just blew up. So Terry McLaurin is on a team that nobody thinks is going to do anything. There's going to be a receiver or maybe two on that team that are much better than people are anticipating. So, just keep that name in mind. The very last pick of your draft, you got your kicker defense and you need to pick up one player. Why not take a shot on Terry McLaurin and see how, he pans out? Because if he does have a good season, you're going to be really happy you picked him up in the last round.
I was going to touch on the fact that, like, let's say that LaShawn McCoy does not get hurt this year. Is there a chance, even without injury, a guy that's as talented as him, that he loses his starting role to someone else?
I mean, that was. I feel like that was just like a nonsense thing anyway. Teams lie to their players all the time just to coax their egos. Like, Shady's got one of the biggest egos of any player that I've ever seen in my life. So of course they're going to tell him he's going to be the guy, and they'll tell him he's going to be the guy right up until a week and a half before the season when they decide to cut him. So, to me,
I don't know if they'll cut him because I was actually
I don't know about cut him either. Yeah. I was just saying that as sarcasm, but to me it just seems teams just say whatever the hell they want to say to coax somebody's ego. And Shady's got the biggest of all egos, so they can't go in there telling Shady, like, yeah, we really like this rookie. I know we've been playing him with the first team, but you're still our guy. We got you. Like, come on now.
Yeah, I honestly think Buffalo is waiting right now. I think Buffalo is waiting right now for someone to get injured on another team. Maybe a team that has playoff hopes. early in the season, they get an injury, they could easily just be like, hey, you know what? We have LaShawn McCoy here. We have other backs to replace him. If you guys are interested, give us a 4th round, a 5th round pick for him. And it's going to end up being he gets traded. And I wouldn't be surprised if he got traded, before the start of the season or, sometime during the season when an injury happens. But, I do think while he's there, they are going to give him he's definitely not going to get the lion's share of touches that he was getting, in prior seasons. But I definitely think he's going to get, he'll get some play over in Buffalo. They're not going to just completely stay away from him because they're going to want to show him off. They're going to want to show that he still has something left in the tank for a team that's looking for a running back after an injury or something like that.
Yep. Any other news you guys want to get into before we get into the draft?
I just want to break some Antonio Brown balls for just 2 seconds. So, I think it is like insanely hilarious that of all the ways that you were to get injured is to not wear the proper footwear in a cryo chamber. Like, of all the dumb ways that you could get hurt, this has got to be on the Mount Rushmore of idiot ways to get hurt. You know what I mean? Like, how cold those cryo chambers get, and you decided not to wear the proper footwear. Like, how stupid do you have to be? Like, literally, how stupid do you have to be? Like, the amount of stupidity is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, you have to wear gloves and socks apparently when you go into these cryotherapy chambers.
They're like these rubber, ridiculous looking gloves and like these really stupid looking boots that you would have to put on to get in there. And my manager was just like, you know what? I'm gonna go in here with no boots.
He probably had sandals on. I'm guessing he had sandals.
You know what I'm saying? Like that. How stupid you gotta be? Like that is the funniest. That's gotta be the funniest injury I've ever heard in the NFL. Literally, that's gotta be. Other than last year with Zay Jones, jumping out a window, butt ass naked. I'm sorry, that has got to be close to one of the funniest things I've ever heard in an NFL player get injured by.
Dude, I remember telling you that, and you were like, wait, what? You did what?
I literally read that right after you told me, and I'm like, that happened? Really?
Yeah.
Yo, I was dying, dog. I was laughing so hard. I was like, yo, that's the funniest thing ever.
Same thing happened to the dude who just got released from Arizona, Kindichi or something like that. Like, he did something in college which pushed his draft stock down because he was smoking that fake weeds that was out. Like, what are these guys doing, man? You guys are millionaires. But
that's too funny, bro.
Whatever.
Yeah, that's
all right.
Too funny.
So, you know what? I do want to say, I think, a lot. We've even me and Dan even. I think when we did this, kind of were higher on James Washington and Dante Moncrief. I'm starting to think that these reports are being more viable, that Dante Moncrief is probably the second wide receiver in the Pittsburgh offense. More and more you hear it's Moncrief. Me and Dan both, I think when we did the Pittsburgh, the AFC North teams and talked about Pittsburgh, you were on Moncrief. Me and Dan kind of were on James Washington and the upside, but
I think we were more on Washington because of the upside and the value of where he was. But I think we were both on the same page as far as Moncrief being the set number 2 guy. But we just liked Washington's upside more because Moncrief is, you can get him at such a great value.
Yeah, but I mean, right now Moncrief is I think probably around later. He will, I think, still. And to me, I think Moncrief easily hops up ahead of James Washington for me. So, with that being said, we'll start now, and we will get into the mock draft. I am picking second. Dan is picking third, and Steve is picking 11th in this draft. And we're going to see how people are going, and we'll kind of break down our thought processes as the draft goes. We'll probably do it round by round, so maybe we'll stop after the round and get into it a little bit. So,
yeah. So this is a PPR league, guys. Regular PPR scoring. You have 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 kicker, 1 defense, 1 flex. and then 6 bench spots, so 16 rounds, and we're gonna get started now.
All right, so I am the second pick, as I said. This is a PPR league. I am extremely high on Kamara this year, so that's going to be my pick.
Yeah, Barkley went first, and Kev just took Kamara at number 2.
Yeah, I'm slightly higher on Kamara than I am on McCaffrey, but since Kev took him, McCaffrey is definitely the next guy on the list. I have Elliott second on my board, but we're not gonna touch Elliott, so we're gonna stick with guys that we know are playing, and we're gonna lock in McCaffrey.
Elliott goes, David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill, and then it's on me. So,
There's your voice there for you.
I have been stomping my feet for Julio, but I'm not letting Gurley pass me here at 11. I told you guys how high I am on Todd Gurley this year. I do think he's going to be, maybe not the guy of old, but pretty damn close to it, and I'm going to take Todd Gurley here at 11.
All right, so let's just get into the first round a little bit. Anything you guys see that you are
Shocked?
a little shocked about? I mean, Le'Veon goes 6 in the PPR league. David Johnson went 5th. So, wide receivers PPR didn't start going until pick 7. For me in PPR, I almost have a debate. Now, like I said, I have Devontae Adams as my number 1 receiver. I almost debate, for me, Devontae Adams and David Johnson at 5. David Johnson is my 5th round pick, but I love Devontae Adams this year. I think he's going to be a beast, much like he was last year. So this is always the debate I have, but I'm definitely, for me and I'm not taking Le'Veon Bell ahead of those receivers.
No, that's definitely, and we talked about this the other day. We were talking about Le'Veon and how, I had him on my list of guys that I'm not drafting in the first round. And, I actually got a little bit of feedback from there, and guys were like, dude, why are you so low on Le'Veon? You're bashing him. I'm like, dude, I'm not bashing Le'Veon. I said it in that podcast. I think Le'Veon Bell is an amazing talent in the NFL. My problem with Le'Veon Bell is not his talent. My problem with Le'Veon Bell is his offensive line sucks. And that team in general sucks. And we know how tough that schedule is to start the season. So to me, I could see that team not even winning, any of those games. I think the Jets could lose every single one of those games. They could start off 0-7 if you ask me. I think that's a probability. That's a possibility, not a probability, a possibility. So to me, I don't know, I don't think Le'Veon Bell sucks by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just not taking him. I'm not taking him in the first round. I'm more worried about him than I am Todd Gurley or any of the other guys. I just don't like the team he's on. And it's not, not a personal thing. It's just, I don't think the Jets are good. And, DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill is basically move Le'Veon Bell behind all of those guys for me. You know what I mean? Todd Gurley, Julio Jones, I'd take every single one of those guys before I'm taking Le'Veon Bell.
60% of the time, it works every time.
So the first pick in the second round is Travis Kelce, and we are going to resume. It's me now up on the board. For me, just looking at it, now that I got Todd Gurley, because of the risk factor with Todd Gurley, I am going to take another running back, just in case. So looking at the guys that are available at the running back position, you have James Conner, which, I think we have kind of beaten the horn to death about, how we're not super high on Conner. So, for me, it's Mixon, Cook, or Chubb. And for me, I'm going to go Dalvin Cook because I want the upside.
All right, so we came back to me. Read off the names that went after you. Steve, you had James Conner, Joe Mixon, Odell Beckham, Juju, Antonio Brown, Nick Chubb, Damian Williams, and now we're back to me. And there's not really – I'm big on Kerryon Johnson. He's sitting there too, but I would love a running back right now. Right, I'm sorry, I would love a receiver right now. And I think who I would really like, because I'm high on him this year, is Mike Evans. So I'm going to lock him in for me.
Kevin wants to punch you in the lip right now.
I mean, he was the top guy on the board. I mean,
Kevin was like,
great.
"Don't take him."
I mean, you know what? I do. I think Mike Evans. You guys know how much I love Mike Evans, but in PPR, I don't think Keenan Allen is a bad fallback. Keenan Allen's going to catch 100 something every year. So,
dude, we talked about it the other day. Keenan Allen's just being so he's just. I don't understand it. He's just being pushed down, and I don't get it.
See, and now Dan's going to want to punch me in the lip because it came back around. Kerryon Johnson is still sitting there.
And the guy I've been.
Anyway, let's get into the second round before we do any of that. So, right now you took Dalvin Cook, went Connor, Mixon, Beckham, Juju, Antonio, Nick Chubb, Damian Williams. Dan took Mike Evans. I took Keenan Allen, and then last pick of the second round was Adam Thielen.
I think they're all about right. I don't see any out of place. I think they're all good, except I just think Thielen's a stretch in the second. Other than that, I mean, Thielen's a stretch in the second for me. But other than that, I think they're all solid twos, second round picks.
Yeah, Damian Williams is questionable. We talked about Damian Williams in the second being questionable. I don't like Nick Chubb in the second for me personally because of what I broke down. I think that Kareem Hunt coming back in after 8 weeks could cut into that workload, and I just don't want that possibility as I'm getting ready to make my playoff push. Connor, we've talked about not liking, but everybody, he seems to go at this point. As long as he's not in the first round, I don't think you can necessarily bash it. But other than that, anybody else? Any comments on anybody?
I think the only start that I'm not sure. Okay, so you got Julio, Travis Kelce, which we all know how great Travis Kelce is, and Julio is my number one wide receiver, and not anymore. Actually, I moved him down, but he was my number one for a while. But I don't know if I would go tight end there. I think with Julio, I would either have gone another wide receiver or taken a running back there, because in the third round he definitely could have gotten either a tight end or another good wide receiver, and I just don't like that pairing. I don't like Julio, Travis Kelce, the pairing to start your team.
Why?
I don't know. It just.
I mean,
I think that's a little bit early for Travis Kelce because don't get me wrong. I think.
I was gonna say, but we've been talking about taking him in the first.
Yeah, I think. See, but that's the thing. If you're going to take Kelce, I think you need a running back. You know what I mean? Because if you're going to go, to me, I want to be dominant in. Okay, so if you take Julio, right, and then you take Travis, I almost feel like you have to hit a home run on your next pick, because if you pick a weak running back or a running back that doesn't pan out, then you're in trouble. It's a solid start. But I don't know. I don't feel like that's the way I want to start my team, especially in a 12-teamer when I'm the 12th pick. You have to wait so long to get that next pick that the running back or the wide receiver is going to be there might not be what you want. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Looking at your team, Steve, there is such a wide range of outcomes for your team because you literally blow the hell up or go right into
injury reserve.
So you're definitely living off your riskiness.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Is no.
Either I'm going to win or I'm going to lose. I'm down with it.
Is the juice worth the squeeze?
Other than that, I mean, there's not really too many other teams that you can necessarily bash. Like I said, I'm not big on Le'Veon. And not knowing what's going on with Antonio. I mean, I'm sure Antonio will be good by the time the season starts, but that's your 1-2. That could be a little rough. That could be a rough start to your season.
Yeah.
So you want to keep it going now?
Yes, sir. So Ty goes in the first pick in the third round, Yeah.
followed by you know who.
Kerryon Johnson.
Well, sticking with guys that we like more than other guys, I'm not going to go to the top of the board here. Well, top of the board is Melvin Gordon, and he's just too much of a flight risk with what he's got going on, so I'll let the computer generate him for another person. I'm going to go with Leonard Fournette, who I said who I would love to get in the third round, and I think he's going to have first round, second round production.
Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Jones, Zach Ertz, Devontae Freeman, Stephon Diggs, Melvin Gordon, Amari Cooper, and it is on me. And
You're going to go with another running back, aren't you?
I'll tell you what, I'm thinking about it. I am definitely thinking about it.
Got his boy there.
I am.
There's a couple of his boys up there. He's got a couple boys staring at.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Mac.
I love that. That is a.
And then I'm going to come back and take the guy that I've been beating the drum on.
Pause it for a sec there, Steve. We'll go over the third round real quick.
We'll go over the third round. So, third round, I kind of read it to you guys while it was going on, but T.Y. Hilton, Kerryon Johnson, Leonard Fournette, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Aaron Jones, Zach Ertz, Devontae Freeman, Stephon Diggs, Melvin Gordon, Amari Cooper, Marlon Mack, Josh Jacobs. So
let's not even talk about Patrick Mahomes. We do that enough.
Yeah, we're gonna skip over Pat. So I said with that number 12 team, look, you see he got Josh Jacobs, and I don't like that. That's not the running back I want to have with those two guys. You know what I mean?
It's not a good start. I mean, to me, if you're going to go Julio Kelsey,
I would have gone Edelman.
I would have went 0 RB. I would have just went Edelman, and then he took Robert Woods in the first pick in the fourth. Like if you get Edelman, Woods, Julio, and Kelsey, you got a great 0 RB start.
You got a very nice starting 3 wide receivers because this is a 3 wide receiver league. You know, I just. See what I mean? Josh Jacobs. I don't like that start. I don't like going Julio, Kelsey, and then Josh Jacobs because now he's going to be hurting at wide receiver. I mean, he got Robert Woods, so that's a good 2. But his third wide receiver, he's going to need to take another running back at some point. You know what I mean? Because Josh Jacobs we don't know what the hell he is. We think he's going to be good, but we don't know. You know what I mean? And Robert Woods we know is a solid guy, but I would have gone with Edelman, Robert Woods. I think his wide receivers would have been the strongest in the league, and then you just continue from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think you would have had the strongest because you got Adam Beckham and Stephon Diggs as one of them.
Oh yeah, well that's okay. So the second,
he would definitely be up there. Yeah, and that's my thing. Like if you're gonna, I guess I'll say that kind of be part of the strategy. If you're gonna go a wide receiver and Kelsey or Kelsey wide receiver, I would just take the 0 RB and run with it.
Be all in. If you're going to be all in.
Because these mid-round running backs, like, a lot of them have question marks. The Josh Jacobs, the Phillip Lindsays, the, David Montgomery. Derrick Henry's got an injury right now. We debated Mark Ingram the other day. How many carries is he going to get? Is he going to be splitting time with all those guys in the backfield? There's just a lot of question marks with those, late 3rd to 5th round running backs. And, if you're going to do it, you might as well just go all in, get your receivers, and then hope some running backs open up as the season goes on. Because, like I wrote in the 0 RB article, there was so many running backs came from either after the 6th round or later or off the waiver wire. Like it just happens so much because injuries to running backs happen. So if you're gonna start your team with a wide receiver and Kelsey, I would just say go 0 RB and take it all the way.
Exactly. And I was going to bring up your article too. I was going to say that, the article is actually a really good reference to what we're talking about here because you could have gone. Just looking at the RBs, I'm just going to throw some out there that are probably going to be available for him when he comes back. You got Carson, Sony Michel, Tariq Cohen, Drake, Coleman, Miller, just all those guys. I think kind of what those guys are, and you have no idea what Josh Jacobs is. So, I would have gone the 0 RB and just ran it out with the rest of the guys that are here, and then work the waiver wire, work trades. Just do what you got to do until. But you have dominance in one position. Especially in a 12-team league, it's so important to have dominance somewhere. not just be all over the place. Because if you're in a 12-team league, 14, 16-team league, if you're spread so thin across your team that your points are hard to come by, you might as well just say, you know what, I'm going to hammer this position. I'm going to be the best team in this, one of the best teams in this position, a top 3 team at this one position, and then let it come to me after that. What do you think, Dan?
I think you guys touched on most of the points on that round. I'll get into round 4.
Is there any other team here that you think you would like, or that you would want to if you could switch with another team? What team is that? Because I'm looking at some of these teams and I
like Kev's team.
Yeah,
I like Kev. I like Kev's team. He's definitely. Other than that, I like my team more than most of the other teams.
Yeah.
But I like Kev's team a lot. And other than that, I'm on board with my team.
I'll say
your team, obviously, Steve, maybe be a little more conservative. Your team, I mean, I got Todd Gurley in our league, so I'm all on board with Todd Gurley. I hope he has a monster year, but your team is high risk. I mean, Marlon Mack, he could be an MVP for all we know in that offense, but it's just you are all risk right now. That's no glory.
You guys know how big I am on going receivers early, and that Devontae Adams, Odell Beckham, Stephon Diggs looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I noticed that too. That's a pretty.
Yeah, that's a good 3.
They're 3 receivers that I really like a lot. So that's a good team right there too.
That might be a good start. So let's keep it going.
Yes, sir. All right, so I am up, and
I know who you're picking. Before you even pick them.
Yeah.
No, I did not. No, I did not.
Yes. So I ended up taking Kittle because I think he is the best tight end available, and I've been telling you guys I want one of those 3 guys. If I'm not dominant, and I know this is a 3 wide receiver league, and normally I would definitely have taken wide receivers, but I went into this draft knowing that I was picking late, and wide receivers were probably going to go. Not as many wide receivers went as I thought, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to go heavy running back and see, if I can get a tight end in the 4th, and I got Kittle. So I'm super happy with that.
Very nice. Yeah, I didn't see that one coming. Man, this is where I got to take a minute here and see.
So the picks after me
go ahead.
George Kittle, and then you got Julian Edelman, who was the other guy I was thinking about there, but I was like, you know what? I would rather have the higher end tight end, but then you got Derrick Henry, Kenny Galladay, Brandon Cooks, Mark Ingram, David Montgomery, Philip Lindsay, and Dan is on the clock.
I'm gonna lock in PPR. I'm back and forth between 2 guys, but I'm gonna stick with this guy because he's definitely the steadiest guy on his team.
Yeah. So, who did you go with, Dan?
James White. I just don't think that there's really any competition for him. We're not big on Sony Michel this year, and neither is any of the ESPN analysts that I've heard. So, James White even when you have a loaded backfield, James White still gets his touches, and the fact that there's Cooper Kupp for Kev. The fact that that they're not real high on Sony Michel this year, and they don't know he doesn't catch the ball at all. James White is an amazing player to have in PPR.
Yeah, this round, looking at the round, going over it real quick. Robert Woods, Greg Little, Julian Edelman, Derrick Henry, Kenny Galladay, Brandon Cooks, Mark Ingram, David Montgomery, Philip Lindsay, James White, Cooper Kupp, and Jarvis Landry. There's not really any surprises here. This is basically how I've seen, the 4th round going. These are kind of the guys that are going in that 4th round. And my favorite guy really in that round was Kittle because he's going in the 3rd round.
Yeah, that was probably I would say Edelman is probably mine, but Kittle is definitely a strong second.
Yeah, so it's definitely I like that round. The 4th round is one of those rounds for me that I feel like you're definitely going to get somebody you like, and you're not going to be too upset about it. So let's continue, and it is on Kev. The first pick in the 5th round was Calvin Ridley. So this guy started off Saquon, Thielen, Hilton, Landry, Ridley. So he went 4 wides.
Yeah, remember it's 3 wide receiver PPR league. There is one flex, so I guess he's just going heavy with the receivers. All right, so I'm up here, and I've been preaching this. I preached this the pretty much the day it happened. If AJ Green falls into the 5th round, I will be taking him, and so I will be taking AJ Green.
If you didn't, I was. So yeah, no, it's just we spoke on it. You can't beat that value of getting AJ Green. I mean, what if the guy only misses, 4 games, 6 games? It's just all right. So
Dan is looking, and while Dan's looking, I'm gonna go across some of these other teams that I like. This guy went 4 running backs, which I don't understand really. David Johnson, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, David Montgomery. I don't know.
4 wide receivers. That 4 wide receiver team is beat, dude. And then he goes Luck, so he's just going 0 RB. Man, he has Adams, Beckham, Diggs, Galladay, Luck.
Yep.
Whew.
I like it.
Whew.
I like it.
He drafted a 5th running back?
yeah, I mean, you can't start that many people. I don't.
Or a 4th running back. I'm sorry. He's drafted a 4th running back. That makes 0 sense to me. So he's going 0 wide receiver.
Literally 0 wide receiver.
Oh my goodness! All right, so let's see.
You don't have a wide receiver.
Yeah, you know what? I am actually going to shock the world right here. I am going to go.
I'm going to go Michelle.
No, I am going to go quarterback. I'm going to go Deshaun Watson. Just looking at the way I've built my team so far. Okay, so let's pause it. So, just looking at the way I've built my team so far, you know what I mean? I went 3 running backs, decided I wanted to be a juggernaut at running back if these guys pay off. I got the steadiness of George Kittle. And then we have all said that we like, Deshaun Watson as a top 3 quarterback. So, at this point, I want to stack my team with the most dominance at each position and worry about wide receiver later because I really love the wide receivers later. I think there are some blow up potential guys here, and I'm cool with taking a whole bunch of them because my next probably 5 picks are going to be wide receivers. So, I kind of like the way this team is shaping out with how it's gone so far. So in that round,
I really like your team as well, Steve. I think starting with those 3 running backs in PPR leagues, I feel like in PPR leagues you're able to find guys in the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th round that are going to catch a shit ton of balls. So, if you got guys that are going to catch a lot of passes, PPR leagues, they're you're basically making up your points with the receptions. Standard leagues, those touchdowns are so important, and a lot of these PPR guys don't really score a lot of touchdowns. But you get into PPR leagues, man, you can stack your team with a couple of good running backs, and then fill your team with late round wide receivers that just, going to catch a lot of passes, kind of balances out your team.
Yeah, I mean, Steve's team, you have 3 running backs, but all 3 of these running backs are 3 down running backs, so in a PPR league, they don't really need to come off the field. They're all guys that produce, not only rushing, but receiving. So, they have that dual threat potential, kind of like, your Saquons and your, Christian McCaffrey. So, it's not you may not be heavy receiver right now or any receiver right now, but you got guys that definitely can produce on the receiving end. So Sony Michel is the first pick of the 6th round.
Yes, he is. All right, I'm going to start it back up. And my first pick in that round is going to be, I think Kev kind of knows who it is. I'm going Christian Kirk because I really believe in this kid. And I'm okay with him being my wide receiver 1. I think he's going to be highly targeted in this year. So for me, a guy that I'm super confident in. And like I said, I think within the next 3 years he's going to be a top 12 wide receiver in every league. And people are just going to be drafting the hell out of that kid. He's going to be a top 3 round pick in the next 3 years. I can almost guarantee it.
All right, I am up. And this is normally the spot where, in my mocks that I've been doing, that I try to get a guy that is going to have a blow up year. And I do see a couple guys, but the one guy that I like a lot, that another guy we've touched on that we're all pretty high on, I'm gonna get a receiver for Steve's quarterback, and I'm gonna go Will Fuller. I locked it in. It's just taking a minute. There it is.
I do like that pick.
Yes,
Really
sir.
like that pick. Me, I got a couple running backs. I already got my 3 wide receivers. However, I am going to have to find another receiver to fill in for AJ Green, probably for the first 3 or 4 weeks. However, right now, there's a running back on the board that I cannot ignore that I think is going to be a huge part of the team's offense. He is going to be a second running back on the team's offense, but he's a receiving down back, and they run the ball a shit ton, so I'm going to take Rashad Penny.
All right, so in that round, it ended up with Lamar Miller in the last pick. So that round was Sony Michel, Christian Kirk, Tevin Coleman, Evan Ingram, Mike Williams, Hunter Henry, Kenyon Drake, Alshon Jeffrey, Robbie Anderson, Will Fuller, Rashad Penny, and Lamar Miller. What is this, the 7th round? Yes, 7th round. Started off with Baker.
Now, yeah. Anybody? All right. So, you know what? We'll wait till after like round 8 or 9 and stop it and just look at the teams and determine who we're see who we like. Just starting back up. All right. So I'm on the clock now. Receivers. There's not really a lot of guys that I'm overly high on. There is one down there, but you know what? That is the guy I'm going to go with. I just think that last year was a bad year.
Marvin Jones.
And, the year before that, he was a beast. And he's got a great rapport with Stafford. And, I just think that the hatred on him dropping into the 8th and 9th round in some of these drafts is just crazy. The guy 2 years ago was a number 1 wide receiver 1. He was the 12th wide receiver overall. So I think he'll also be a great fill-in for a first, 3 weeks while AJ Green is, tending to his injury.
All right, so basically this is going to be a strategic play right here, because looking at all the running backs and receivers, and there's a lot of receivers that I like, but I think they're just so deep in receiver that I can wait. Tight ends I like later. Running backs, I'm not sold on any of them. And there's a quarterback that will not get back to me that I've been preaching that he's got MVP upside, and that's Carson Wentz. So I got to lock in Carson now, because there's no way that he would get back to me, being that I'm only the 3rd pick, and the sneak's got to go the long way back.
All right, so with Carson being taken, it was Dante Pettis, Austin Eckler, Allen Robinson, Matt Ryan, Jared Cook, Drew Brees, Miles Sanders, and it's back on me. So looking at the wide receiver position, again, there is a couple of guys on here that I really like. And I'm actually going to take Larry. Now, I already have Christian Kirk. I'm not going to take Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I was about to
so
say.
let me see here. I'm going to go Dede Westbrook, because I think he's going to be the highest targeted player on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'll take those targets all day. So Latavius Murray goes after him. Larry Fitzgerald goes after him. And now, looking at the wide receiver position, I am going to go Geronimo Allison.
I love that pick. You're getting Geronimo in the 8th. That's such a good pick.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. And there's a couple guys that I actually thought would come back to me, because people went quarterbacks, and a couple tight ends came off the board too. So the strategy that I was aiming for actually worked out well. So we know how high I've been speaking of Corey Davis, and he's still sitting there, and it's just a matter of who I like more. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm high on Corey Davis this year. I think he's going to have a really huge year with tons of targets, so he's got to get added to the team.
All right, so that round so far, we'll let Kev think about what he wants to do. We got Larry Fitz, Geronimo Allison, Kyler Murray, Sammy Watkins, Darius Geis, Kareem Hunt, Russell Wilson, Vance McDonald, Darrell Henderson, Corey Davis. Was round 8. So at the end of round 9, we'll pause it, guys, and look over some of the teams and see what we think.
All right, so here we are. I think I can wait there. So you know what? All right, I'm going to take a guy who's probably going to be the number one wide receiver on his team, and for the first 4 games, he's going to be the only wide receiver on his team. That'll be Sterling Shepard. So yeah, I think that's where I'm going to go. I'm a little light at running back, but this is a 3 wide receiver, 3 wide receiver PPR league. You got to get guys that are going to catch the ball. So yeah, I think I'm going to go Sterling Shepard.
And after Sterling Shepard was Eric Ebron, and then the first pick in the 9th round was Jordan Howard.
All right, so here I am sitting here in the 9th. Now, and this is where I think I'm going to take a running back, I think, who has a lot of upside. He's sharing the workload in Denver. That's Royce Freeman. He's a guy that could potentially take that job over, and if he doesn't take it over, to me, he's the touchdown guy. So, he's going to be the one if Philip Lindsay does go down, and even if Philip Lindsay doesn't go down, I mean, it's Royce Freeman is clearly a bigger back. So, I know Philip Lindsay did really well in the red zone last year to me, but I think Freeman's going to be
pretty good. So,
all right. So, I am also a little light on the running back position. I got 3 really good names, but I'm trying to stare down and see who I like ahead of the group. I mean, McCoy's still available, but we talked about him a little bit earlier. I mean, in this round, I don't think it's good value, being he's so aging. You know what? Can't take Jones. I had him on my team last year. Dude was just awful. I'm gonna go with Samuels. I think he might surprise some people this year.
Jalen Samuels.
That's not a bad pick in the PPR league. I mean, what we're hearing, this guy's going to be, passing down back, and they're not really riding with Connor in passing situations. So
I am ecstatic right now because I thought for sure Curtis Samuels was going, and he just dropped to me there, which was makes me extremely happy.
I looked at him when I would pick Corey Davis 2 rounds ago. He just go all the way over to there.
I'm ecstatic that he fell to me, and I am I told you guys my strategy. The way I build my teams, I kind of have an idea of how I want to build my teams. And I told you guys I didn't go any wide receivers for the first 5 rounds. And the next 5 rounds, I was going to take nothing but wide receiver.
Yep.
And here I get Kiki Cutie, who I told you guys the other day I really am high on. And I am going to take him here. So at the end of this round, we'll stop it, guys, and go over the teams.
Man, this draft worked great for you. Oh, worked out great for you, Steve.
Yeah, we'll edit that out. It's cool. But anyway, so in that round, that is round 10, DK Metcalf, Kiki Cutie, Damian Harris, Jameis Winston, the Los Angeles Rams defense, Cortland Sutton, Deshaun Jackson, Emmanuel Sanders, Golden Tate, and it is on Dan. And Dan, he sniped him.
Yeah, I mean, that's who I was waiting for. But it is what it is.
I think we're the only 2
Dan
left without
takes
tight ends.
Delaney Walker.
We're the only 2 left without tight ends, and
it was definitely coming in this round.
Yeah.
Or the next round, one or the other. All right, so now I'm going to look, and there's a running back there that I've been talking about this team, and I think that they're going to be. Your coach knows how to use the running backs. I'm going to take Jerick McKinnon. If he's the passing down back, if they're sharing workload, whatever they're planning on doing, I think those running backs are going to get a lot of work there. So I'm with Jerick McKinnon, and that was followed by Deontay Foreman, and that is the end of the 10th round.
All right, we are going to go over. We're not gonna. We already kind of told you guys the pick, so we're not gonna go over every pick, but we are gonna go over teams that we like. So right off the bat, first team that caught my eye was one that Kev talked about earlier. This guy went with Devontae Adams, Odell Beckham, Stephon Diggs, Kenny Galladay, Andrew Luck. Went with Mike Williams, which was a little bit puzzling, but Jared Cook, Darius Geis, LaShawn McCoy. He took 0 RB to the next level, homie.
He sure did. 8th round. I mean, to me, I understand it's PPR league, but getting Geis in the 8th round.
Yeah, that's.
I mean,
if he blows up, that is going to help his team. If he definitely if he shows out, that's going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
The other team that caught my eye here was actually I don't like we said, we've talked about these guys, and I don't like James Conner, but this is a pretty good team. You got Tyreek Hill, James Conner, Amari Cooper, Julian Edelman. I love those wide receivers. O.J. Howard. Everybody knows how much I love O.J. Howard, right?
He just drafted 2 quarterbacks. That's all.
This dude, Steve, this guy drafted everybody that you actually have been talking about. It's crazy. I'm looking for start. I'm like, damn. Aside from maybe Conner and Cooper, this dude's drafted he's drafted all your top dogs.
Exactly. So Tevin Coleman, Miles Sanders, Kyler Murray, Jared Goff. So he took two quarterbacks, but I kind of understand that when you take Kyler Murray, if you're a little bit nervous about him, you want to. I wouldn't take him back to back, but I wouldn't take him back to back. But I definitely see what kind of what he's looking at. And then you got Damian Harris, who you guys know that I like. I've already said that. So what teams do you guys like?
I like the guy.
Other than your own team, obviously.
No, I like even though we just talked about Le'Veon Bell going pretty early, afterwards he got Antonio Brown, one of the top 3. I mean, he's on a new team, so obviously his ranks dropped a little bit, but he's got Antonio Brown, and he's got he's got Zach Ertz, one of the top tight ends, Mark Ingram, he's got Godwin, Drake, Allen Robinson, Russell Wilson, who you guys aren't as high on, but I'm high on him. I'm not a big fan of Ronald Jones, but he's got Deshaun Jackson, who I think has one of the best values in all of fantasy this year. So I think although he doesn't have, besides maybe Antonio Brown and Le'Veon, superstars, he's got a lot of solid talent that could potentially be. Some of these guys on this team have shown something special, and there's going to be some guys that blow up. So I like his team. It's a balanced team.
What do you think, Kev?
I mean, honestly, your team. I do like the 0 RB team until he just started. He drafted Mike Williams when he could have got Kenyon Drake, which would have really set his team off. Because if he would have had Devontae Adams, Odell Beckham, Stephon Diggs, Kenny Galladay, then gets Andrew Luck, then he gets Kenyon Drake, comes around and gets Cook, and now you got Geis and McCoy. It looks a whole lot better with Drake instead of Mike Williams there.
Yeah.
So I think that's the team that I think I would have. That's pretty much what I like in a 0 RB. Except, like I said, I would have taken the running back in round 6 there. It would have been Kenyon Drake, and I think his team would have been literally the best, in my opinion, other than his Rams pick. But if you want to take the top defense in the 10th round, go ahead.
Yeah. All right, so
that would be my team. So
let's continue this draft. We are just going to go straight through to round 16. And Kevin is on the clock.
All right, so I do need to load up on receiver. We just talked about this guy. Wait, am I on the clock? It's okay. You got to hit it again. Still.
It might be taking a second for you guys. I don't know why.
I see it.
It's running on my screen.
Yeah, it's running on mine too.
It's paused on mine.
All right, so I like. I was looking here, This guy that took Jameis Winston, he has Drew Brees, but Michael Thomas, Joe Mixon, Melvin Gordon, Derrick
I was
Henry,
looking at
DJ
his team.
Moore, Evan Ingram, Drew Brees, Sammy Watkins, Marquez Valdez Scantling, and then Jameis Winston. I like that team. I don't like that he took 2 quarterbacks, but it is what it is.
So here, I'm actually going to go with another wide receiver here, guy we just talked about, and I'm thinking I'm moving him up my board because I think the Pittsburgh Steelers they're still going to be a team that throws the ball a ton. Ben Roethlisberger basically calls plays out there, so I don't think he's just turning around and handing off to James Conner every time. So I'm going to go with Dante Moncrief.
Yep.
Yep, let's go. We just touched on him. Spoke about him earlier in the podcast.
Going in the 11th round. You can't beat that with a stick.
I'm going to go with the guy that I'm pretty high on that I spoke of a few times because I'm just not sold on Damian Williams. He was one of my guys that I think he's going to be talented, but I mean, is he going to be second, third round talent? I mean, I'm not sure of that. So we're going to get his backup, who I think is going to see a lot of playing time, and that's Carlos Hyde.
All right, so coming back to me. For me, I like my wide receivers at this point. I feel really good about them. So I am actually going to look at running back and see what's up with that. There's a guy here. Yeah, and I told you guys last time we did the mock drafts. After round 10, I kind of shoot for the moon. I go for guys that I think have extreme upside, and because I want to win all my leagues. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I look at fantasy football. I look at it like, I am going to either sink or swim, and I'm going to take Devin Singletary here.
Yeah, I hate you, Steve.
And I am back on the clock. The 2 picks after me is Tom Brady, Ito Smith. Looking at the players that are here, there is I'm actually going to go running back again. And this is a PPR league, and I know a lot of people aren't going to take this guy, but I am, and I'm going to take Chris Thompson also.
We talked about that before. He's an awesome PPR pick.
Yeah, that team is hurting at wide receiver. We talked about Terry McLaurin, and he could be good. But, I already know Chris Thompson is good when he's on the field, and Jay Gruden loves to throw it to him out of the backfield. He knows he's a reliable pass catcher out of the backfield, and he makes plays. As long as if he can stay healthy, if that dude can stay healthy for 16 games, I can almost guarantee in a PPR setting he would be, a top 30 back without question, and a possible top 24 guy if he just could stay healthy.
All right, so I'm back on the clock here, and I went running back list 2 out of 3. I only got a handful of receivers, so I'm staring down some and seeing who I like. And out of the guys that I'm looking in the next 10, 15 picks, I'm going to go John Brown. I like John Brown. Super fast guy, and he's got a quarterback with a huge arm. I think it's a good combination.
Yeah. So, for me, we've been talking a lot about this wide receiver. Fast guy, got put in the great offense with Andrew Luck. So I think I'm going to take Paris Campbell here, and hope that Matt Breida came back around. Like I said, I have McKinnon. I think drafting Breida with McKinnon is a kind of a good strategy. Steve has talked about getting 2 of the 3. I'm not even against drafting all 3 of them, to be honest. But yeah, so in this round here in 13, I'm going to go with Matt Breida.
All right, so we have Dan is back on the clock.
I am.
See, and Kev kind of took the strategy that I was saying. You take 2 of those guys, and one of them could be a home run. You know what I mean? It's as simple
And
as that. In a good rushing offense, one of those guys could be a home run. I don't give a damn what anybody says. If especially in these later rounds, you know what I mean? At this point, screw ADP. Who cares about ADP? After round 10, if you're still going by ADP, you're doing it wrong. It is what it is. Take the guys that you feel have a chance to have big seasons.
tell you win your leagues. Just hitting on some of those late round guys. By the way, I took Traquan Smith. I think I've spoken on him too. He's another guy that I'm really high on. I think he's got a ton of huge upside. So I mean, there was obviously some names ahead of him that, like Steve just said, screw ADP at this point. There was a lot of names ahead of him, but he's a guy that I think has gigantic upside. Just an all-around talented guy with a Hall of Fame top 5 all-time quarterback.
Yes, sir. So, in this round, I am looking at the wide receivers that are available. Marquise Brown is available. There's actually a lot of guys here at the wide receiver position that, this far down, I know most people are going, yeah, I don't know who the hell I'm going to take here, but there's a couple of guys that I like at the wide receiver position still, so I'm going to go back to running back. And
All right.
I have a couple of guys here that I'm looking at, and I'm going to do it again. I've been doing it, basically past couple of weeks, and I'm going to take Duke Johnson because I do think he's going to get traded to somebody eventually, and I'm hoping that, he gets to somewhere where they're going to throw the ball to him a crazy amount.
Not even just that. I feel like he's going to the first, whatever weeks before he's traded, if he's not traded in Cleveland, they're going to use the shit out of him.
Yeah.
They're going to use the shit out of him in the passing game because Chubb is not necessarily a pass catcher. So.
Yep. So looking here, I am going to take my defense. It is round, some round. I'm going to take my defense here,
14.
and I'm going to go with the Bills defense in round 14.
All right. Let's see what we got here.
So in this round, I went Greg Zuerlein, Bills defense, Nyheim Hines, Jordan Reed, Will Lutz, Trey Burton, Michael Gallup, Mark Andrews, Harrison Butker, and Dan is on the clock. So while Dan just figured it out. Dan went Broncos defense. What do you like about the Broncos defense, Dan? Tell the folks at home.
A certain head coach that was a defensive coordinator for Chicago last year.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, we spoke on. So I think that he's definitely going to be a defensive-minded guy, even though he's, in a different role this year. But they've already been a great defense over the last few years. I mean, obviously they're not as good as that Super Bowl defense, but they definitely have potential. So I'm back on the clock now. Kevin's finally picking some of the other positions besides receiver and running back.
So, Kev, you took Jack Doyle and Matthew Stafford as your two. Team 1 actually took Cousins, which, I don't know. When you have Baker Mayfield, I'm not taking another quarterback, but, it is what it is. Cousins goes.
Well, everybody except us 3 took 2 quarterbacks, so.
Yeah, but I'm cool with it because I'm looking at the quarterback position right now, and there's still 3 guys on here I like. There's Trubisky.
Yeah, you like Josh Allen.
Yeah, as my number 2, I'll take Trubisky all day. I'll take Josh Allen all day, and I'll take Andy Dalton all day. Derek Carr, is my guy that if I get stuck with, I'm not going to hate it, but it is what it is. And I'm not taking another quarterback, but they'll be on the bench. They'll be on the waiver wire, and I'll be okay with picking those guys up.
Yeah, my thought process with Jack Doyle is I just think he's going to be the number 1 tight end in Indianapolis. We talked about that and how Eric Ebron was not targeted as much with Doyle in the field. So I think Doyle's going to see a lot of targets, and I think he's going to take away from Ebron's touchdowns total. So I think getting Jack Doyle late in these rounds, we talked about that. This guy half the time isn't even being drafted. So I thought that was a great value there. And I've been high on Matthew Stafford. I have Matthew Stafford, I think, is like my number 15 when most people have him in the late 20s. I just think Stafford had a bad year last year. Last year, the Lions was basically a rebuilding year, so to speak. You had Golden Tate get traded out of there. Marvin Jones got hurt. Carry-on was off and on hurt. They were throwing in LeGarrette Blount when they didn't need to. I just think that the Lions are a lot more of a stable team this year. And to me, I think Matthew Stafford bounces back. I don't know if he's necessarily going to finish as a number one receiver, or number one quarterback. I'm sorry, but I think if he finishes in the 15, 16 area, I think that's perfectly fine for what I've done with the team.
Yeah, so I went with my wide receiver because I don't give a shit about kickers. And in the last round, I'm going to take my kicker, and he's always there for me. He just sits there nice and patiently and waits for me. And Tavecchio is my kicker. But I took Miles Boykin in the 15th round. Miles Boykin is a wide receiver that I actually liked coming out of college. I thought he landed in a team that, I've been saying it all offseason. I thought the Ravens were being a little bit underrated, and they are praising this kid in camp, saying how well he looks. And I know that that's coach speak for everybody, but I do like the talent, so I'm going to take him here, and hopefully he gets a rapport with Lamar Jackson, and has a good season for me. And if not, I can drop him and use him as my waiver wire pickup guy.
All right. I'm on my last pick, and I got to pick a kicker, but my draft button is not available for whatever reason.
Yeah, you may have to like log out of it and then.
Yeah, let me just try doing that real quick.
What I've had to do a couple times.
Now there you go, Dan. It should have just popped up for you. Yeah, for some reason, the computer allowed other people to pick before the guy that picked after me. I don't know what the hell that was about. But
yeah, the app's acting a little crazy right now.
So in that last round, it's Marquise Brown, Giorgio Tavecchio, Deshaun Hamilton, Robbie Gould, Darwin Thompson, Giovanni Bernard, Randall Cobb, Marquise Goodwin, Jimmy Graham, and it is on Dan. And Dan needs to pick a kicker.
I think I was going with Vinatieri, so even if this thing doesn't let me log back in, Vinatieri was my kicker.
Right.
Oh, wait, here we go. It's letting me do it now. Ain't loading my players up. But Vinatieri is my kicker as the number 16, so there we go.
I got you, dog.
Good, thank you.
All right. And I'm going to go with Dan Bailey. And if this, I did not draft the defense. The reason why is because this is more of a streaming idea that I'm going, and the Eagles' defense is still sitting there. So I would be picking up the Eagles' defense and probably dropping. I don't want to really drop Brady. I would probably be forced into dropping Paris Campbell, even though I'm not really excited about doing that either. But, yep, that would be my philosophy on that. So,
yeah. So let's grade each other's teams. Let's do that because there's too many teams to grade. So we will, we gave you all the players. We're just going to grade each other's teams. For Kev, we'll go first because obviously he was the first pick. So we have Alvin Kamara, Keenan Allen, Kerryon Johnson, Cooper Kupp, A.J. Green, Rashad Penny, Marvin Jones, Sterling Shepard, Royce Freeman, Jerick McKinnon, Dante Moncrief, Paris Campbell, Matt Breida, Jack Doyle, Matthew Stafford, and Dan Bailey. I would give your team a B+. I like your wide receivers. Getting Marvin Jones and Sterling Shepard after you got AJ Green, so you have the depth at wide receiver to hold AJ Green over while he is waiting to come back. Then you went later on and got Dante Moncrief and Paris Campbell in a 3 wide receiver league. I think your wide receivers are stacked, and you can throw any one of those guys into your flex position when you need be. Getting Alvin Kamara, he's going to be 75 plus catch back, which is awesome in a PPR league. That's what you want. Kerryon Johnson in the third round, I thought was a steal. Rashad Penny, I really like this year. I've been kind of beating the drum for the guy. I really like him a lot. I do think he's going to get a whole crap ton of touches. Royce Freeman, Jerick McKinnon, and Matt Breida. I think they're just okay guys, and if one of them takes off, you're good. Matthew Stafford, I don't like your quarterback because we've already talked about it, and I don't like Matthew Stafford this year. But Dan Bailey and Jack Doyle, I told you guys I really like Jack Doyle. I think he's going to be the guy over over Eric Ebron. So I like your team. I give it a B, a solid B, close to a B plus.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm at a B2. I'm not going to go over every player, but you definitely got depth. You have upside on a lot of positions. As much as I've liked Stafford over the year, because over the years, being that he's been a monster of a yardage quarterback, I do think that he's not what he used to be, and that's mainly because Matt Patricia's a defensive-minded guy and a ground-and-pound guy. So, if you had a slightly better quarterback in there, for me, you'd be a solid B plus, but still B, and a B's good.
Yeah, to be honest, I was hoping to get Lamar Jackson, and everybody just took two quarterbacks. So in that 12th round, Phillip Rivers, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson all went as second quarterbacks. I hadn't even had my first yet. I was hoping Lamar Jackson fell back to me, but he did not. So I just waited to the end and grabbed Stafford. Like I said, that's more of a personal thing. So, I'll go with a B minus, mainly because, I don't have the best of quarterbacks, and as much as I'm high on Stafford, I understand that, there are a lot of quarterbacks that I have ranked above him.
All right, so let's go with Dan the man. So we got Christian McCaffrey, Mike Evans, Leonard Fournette, James White, Tyler Boyd, Will Fuller, Carson Wentz, Corey Davis, Jalen Samuels, Delaney Walker, Carlos Hyde, John Brown, Traquan Smith, Denver's Broncos defense, Alfred Morris, and Adam Vinatieri. I really like your running backs, I have to admit, because if Leonard Fournette is as good as you think he's going to be this year and as good as some people are saying that he should be, that is going to be, you're going to have really dominant running backs, because we know that James White is going to be anywhere from 75 catches to, plus.
150. You don't know what this guy gets. I mean, it's you know what his floor is. You don't know what his ceiling is.
Yeah, and I love that you got Mike Evans in the second round as your number one wide receiver. And then everybody knows how much upside I think Will Fuller has. Tyler Boyd is going to be super solid for you. Corey Davis, if he pans out for you, could be very good. John Brown and Traquan Smith are just, we'll see what happens with those guys. The Denver Broncos defense and Adam Vinatieri. I would give this team a B plus. I like your wide receivers, and I like your running backs a lot. And you got Carson Wentz, who's to me definitely a top 4 or 5 guy at the quarterback position. I mean, Delaney Walker, I'm not as high on him as you guys are. I think he's probably still a top 10 a top 10 tight end. So I give this a B plus.
Yeah, I'm going to go A minus. I really think you have a great team here. A lot of it rides on Leonard Fournette. It's going to be depending on whether he's is he going to live up to that billing? Because if he lives up to a potential, like, he was a first round pick pretty much last year. He was a first round pick, I believe, right? Was he not a first round pick?
He was being drafted in the first round.
He was
middle first, I think.
And in his rookie year, he was a second round pick, and he's dipping because last year he was injured and he had all those problems. If he bounces back this year and gives you first round production, man, your team might be the best one in here, no doubt, because McCaffrey's going to perform. I love Mike Evans. I love Tyler Boyd this year. I said, I think Tyler Boyd could potentially be a touchdown machine. Zach Taylor's coming there from the Rams, that slot receiver. gets all the work in the red zone. Cooper Kupp scores a ton of touchdowns, which is why I drafted him, and that's kind of how I see Tyler Boyd fitting in. So I think Tyler Boyd is a really good pick. Will Fuller has a ton of upside. I love Wentz, and you sniped Delaney Walker from me. I've been preaching about him for the whole time we've been doing the podcast. This year. I think I would go A-, maybe even an A. It's all going to depend on Fournette.
Yeah, I mean, I was really happy where the guys fell. The only disappointment was when I had to kind of take Delaney from you because I wanted AJ so bad in that early fifth. That would have been awesome, and you grabbed him. So a little bit of payback. It was my tight end was between him and Hooper, but to be honest with you, I mean, I like Hooper, but I think Delaney can outperform him this year. So I slightly went above him. But yeah, I think my team actually, they became really, really balanced with huge upside. A lot of guys we already know what they're capable of. So I would say A- as well.
All right. Now my team. We got Todd Gurley, Dalvin Cook, Marlon Mack, George Kittle, Deshaun Watson, Christian Kirk, Dede Westbrook, Geronimo Allison, Curtis Samuel, Kiki Cutie, Devin Singletary, Chris Thompson, Duke Johnson, Buffalo Bills defense, Miles Boykin, and Giorgio Tavecchio. So for me, I just went extremely risky at running back. I know that. I think Todd Gurley is a top 5 running back. I've been saying that all off season. I still believe that. Dalvin Cook, I think, has the most upside of all of the running backs this year, from where he's being drafted to where I think he could finish. I definitely think he could finish in the top 5, and I love his upside this year. If he is, the workhorse, the way I think, just the way the Vikings, they started to use him last year. I think if he gets that usage this year with a full 16-game season, he's going to be just an animal. Marlon Mack, I just couldn't pass him up where he fell. George Kittle, I love that I got him in the 4th round. Deshaun Watson, I thought, I wanted to have a top 3 quarterback because I knew I was going to be hurting at wide receiver, so I wanted to make sure I had, top tight end, top quarterback with, the upside of the 3 running backs I had. And then I went crazy on as many wide receivers as I could get that I thought had upside. And, the rest of my team is just, I tried to hit home runs where I could. So I give myself a B.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely had a strategy. I mean, it just played out a certain way for you, and you stuck with it, which was what I liked. Your running backs have a chance to just be legendary. I mean, your running backs could be incredible, and they probably will because they're all superstars, and you have one of the top wide receivers and one of the top tight ends, one of the top quarterbacks. So you are very, very heavy on a lot of areas. It's just your receivers. Mostly upside guys, wait and see kind of guys. I would give you. I'm between a B and a B plus. I would give you a B plus because I really, really think your running backs are incredible. So I definitely would give you a B plus. Yeah, your running backs are just too good to not give you a B plus. And you got Kittle and you got Deshaun. So
yeah, I the only thing I think keeping me from giving you an A is the amount of risk that is assessed to those top 2 picks. I think if both of those 2 guys are healthy and play the whole year healthy, bar none, you are the champion of the league because I love every receiver you drafted. All 5 of those guys, and then even Miles Boykin has been getting a lot of good reviews in Ravens camp. So I think all 6 of those guys could be pretty relevant in PPR leagues. And see, the thing is, if those guys don't pan out, the Todd Gurley, Dalvin Cook, you got guys that could potentially fill in with Duke Johnson, Chris Thompson that are PPR guys, and if Devin Singletary takes that job, Marlon Mack has been an injury risk for his first couple of years too. So yeah, I think that's the only thing keeping me from giving you an A would be the risk at the top of your draft. But I love your team.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. That is the conclusion of our mock draft podcast. Don't forget to go check us out on 4thandinchesff.com. That is the number 4, THNINCHFF.com, where you can get all of your ranks, strength of schedule, articles, our blogs, our player profiles, VIP content, and podcasts. You can actually go on there and download the podcasts, or go right to our podcast platforms to download them. We also, on the VIP section, make sure you check out the decision maker and the cheat codes. That stuff is really going to help you guys win your league, and you're really going to enjoy that. Starting on week 1 of the regular season, we're going to start doing DFS content for VIP members. You really are going to want to check that out, guys. We break down, DraftKings and FanDuel. We break them down really extensively with, players and, prices and guys that we like for their price, and cheap guys that you can put in your lineups that week that we are going to like, our chalk plays of the week, all that stuff. You guys are really going to like that. So for Dan, Kev, and Stevie P, peace, y'all.